Former West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin telling Jon Stewart how Democrats lost support from working class voters in his state.
I can tell you why the union coal miners and all the factory workers that I grew up with, where they are today, why they switched and started voting Republican. They believe that the Democrat Party in Washington basically spends more resources, effort, and time on able-bodied people that don't work or won't work than you do those who do.
Joining us now is senior writer for the Washington Examiner and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, I don't know. What he said there kind of conflicts with what we saw last night. So what's going to have a bigger impact on the midterms? What Manchin said there, or basically last night's enthusiasm for Democrat/socialist policies and candidates?
It's a great question, Todd. I guess it depends on what states that we're talking about in those midterms, because Manchin's exactly correct. It's one of the big reasons why he left the Democrat Party. And for those who say, well, what about the elections yesterday, to your point, Todd? You know, someone like Zohran Mamdani, for example, won in New York not because he captured the kind of working class voters that Democrats of the past have always captured here, but his coalition in New York were young people with college degrees, young women to the tune of about 80%, and those not naturally born in the United States. That's fine in New York, but Democrats are going to have a real problem in purple states where the working class, union workers, steel workers, United Auto workers, people that work in the restaurant industry, places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, other states like North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, they're going to have some real problems there if they're alienating those types of folks. So Democrats, they'd be wise not to look at these elections yesterday as some sort of roadmap. Just because they won in blue states, it is not a swing state model, guys.
We haven't talked, Joe, yet about the Seattle mayoral race or Minneapolis as well. Those two races are still too close to call, and socialist candidates there are still very much in play. And one of the issues that is emerging as to why is this issue of affordability. And that's something that Zohran Mamdani tapped into, and other Democratic socialist candidates across the country. Republicans are going to have to respond to that. They have a year to do so. What's going to happen next?
Precisely. And I think the way, Carly, that you respond to that is how the economy is going to perform over the next year. In other words, if Trump's tariffs stay in place and the economy really starts to take off as far as growth, as far as prices coming down a bit, or at least not going up anymore, then I think then that will be the argument that Republicans can make. If it ends up not happening, then socialists could come in and say, OK, we're going to try the free stuff model. We're going to talk about affordability without a real plan to actually do it outside of government controls, which, as we've seen from everywhere from the Soviet Union to Cuba to Venezuela, simply do not work. So I think in the end, Republicans can make the argument, but it'll be conditions on the ground that ultimately decide how those midterms are going to go.
If you were confused by the results of yesterday's election, maybe you'll be confused by this. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene with some compliments for the host of The View. Watch.
I want to say that I think that all of us right here are doing a great job of exchanging our ideas and things that we believe in, and we're doing it in a very professional and kind way. I believe that people with powerful voices like myself and like you, and especially women to women, we need to pave a new path.
20 seconds to you, Joe, to make sense of Bizarro View.
Well, the charm offensive was smart, but it didn't exactly feel authentic. I mean, The View is the most hostile program against conservatives on the air right now, and there's a lot of competition on that front. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was only invited because she's been critical of President Trump. No pro-Trump Republicans have appeared on that show in years. Now, all that said, and I'll leave it here, when the ratings come out soon, you're going to see that this was probably their highest-rated show of the year. If The View was smart, they would continue to bite on pro-Trump people or Ben Shapiro, but they just simply will not do
it.
it.
It's a combination we never thought we'd see, and great analysis on it. Joe, thank you so much.
So this morning, America's largest city handing the keys to its first socialist mayor, Zohran Mamdani, beating Cuomo with a record turnout, highest since 1969. In neighboring New Jersey, Democrat Mikey Sherrill, what am I saying, beat Donald Trump, backed by Jack Ciattarelli for governor. That was a surprise. Look at that margin.
Yeah, huge. While in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger making history as the Commonwealth's first female governor. This as Democrat Jay Jones becomes the next attorney general, despite making violent texts about an AG and GOP lawmaker and his young kids.
Special report anchor and executive editor Bret Baier. He's also the chief political anchor for the network. Bret Baier joins us now.
Morning.
Good morning. Brett, big picture, looking at all of these different races, I know they're strongly Democrat areas, but what should the Republicans learn from that night?
A couple of things. This is a big loss. You can say that these states were traditionally blue, but you can also say that heading in, there was some thought that, especially in New Jersey, that Ciattarelli would do better. The spreads here are surprising. Maybe not the results, but the spreads. And if you look inside the numbers, there are some dangerous things. One, young women overwhelmingly in New Jersey and Virginia supported the Democrat based on economy, on immigration, maybe those ICE images. The affordability push by Mamdani really sticks. And that's basically inflation and how people feel about the economy. So this dichotomy between how Wall Street's doing and how big business is doing and how you feel about it at home is something Republicans really have to look at closely. But look at this spread in Virginia. It's massive.
Do you think that the young people, especially in the Mamdani race, which is fascinating to me, do you think that they were that they liked his solutions that he was putting forward, or he was the only one who was actually talking about it?
They turned out in droves. Young people
they did.
I mean, in big numbers. 18 to 39 came out for Mamdani big. I think Cuomo started to close at the end because he was saying, here's the fearful things, here are the things you have to be worried about. But he was such a bad candidate at the beginning, it seemed like it was too late.
What about two things? What about the Hispanic vote? And what about the Hispanic vote as well as the female vote going to Democrats without abortion really being front and center? For the longest time, people thought, well, that was the reason Republicans are vulnerable because the pro-life movement, perhaps women were rallying against that. But that wasn't an issue.
No, it really seems like it's economy. It really seems like it's how they feel, grocery shopping, how affordability. There is some other, there's a Trump factor here. He is right to say he was not on the ballot, and when he's not, it doesn't produce the same emotion, but it does produce emotion on the other side, the anti-Trump voter, and they came out in droves as well.
That's a problem for Republicans moving forward. I mean, President Trump is not going to be on the ballot in the future, so they've got to really put forward better candidates that can address these issues.
100%. And, there were some candidate issues there as well. I think looking at today, there are some silver linings for Republicans because it's a wake-up call. And it's like we got to get talking more about the economy, affordability, inflation. And while the administration says there's going to be this golden age and they believe it, they're not feeling it.
What about the shutdown in Northern Virginia especially? How do you think the shutdown is playing? Do you think the Republicans are losing that messaging?
I think both parties are losing, but the longer it goes on, the more painful it is. I bet they're going to try to get to a solution sometime this week. I'm definitely going to ask President Trump about that today. I'm going down to Miami on the side of an economic forum that he's speaking to, and I'll have an interview with him.
What about the Democrats in California, Prop 50? Because they claim that they're doing the same thing as my home state of Texas. But these maps are more evasive, and it's not going to give Republicans a shot at all in their state. How do you think the reaction is going to be toward that?
Well, one, Gavin Newsom's going to take it as an endorsement of his 2028 run, I think, because of the overwhelming support for Prop 50. Two, I think, Republicans in California are going to feel deflated because they're going to lose these seats probably. And three, Republicans across the country have more firepower in their redistricting in different states than Democrats do. So it may be, this battle comes back and forth. The Supreme Court's going to weigh in on this Voting Rights Act situation. It could be 19 seats, depending on what they decide.
Can you explain that?
Basically, it suggests that you can or cannot do this based on race. And if they come out with a specific ruling, you're talking about states that could redraw the maps and it changes towards the Republicans in double digits.
Because right now the law would say you can't do that because it looks like you're doing it on race, and the Supreme Court will come out and say, race doesn't matter, draw the districts, don't worry about it.
Real quickly, Britt, the argument that Republicans are making in Texas is that the areas that they targeted, the Hispanic support, the minority support, actually grew for Republican in those areas versus in California where the Democrats are changing it.
Yeah, that's part of the argument. And I think that this battle is really going to determine who controls the House of Representatives, and that's going to springboard to 28. One more thing. Supreme Court today, you can't overstate the significance of this hearing on tariffs. How this goes down, how this ruling happens for the president, really affects his entire foreign policy and where he's been.
Can you break down that for people who may not be aware of what this case is about?
Basically, it's about whether the president has the right to use this emergency provision, saying that it's an emergency for him to use tariffs on countries around the world. Traditionally, under the Constitution, Congress would have a significant role here. He's saying there's an emergency situation, and the court's going to decide whether that's the case. If they say, no, you can't do it, unwinding all of this would be just really, really
And there are
messy.
things that he could do, but he's not even bringing that up because he wants the pressure on the Supreme Court to, he says, make the right decision. And Scott Bessent's going to be watching the proceedings today. When will we get a verdict on this? Before the end of the year?
I think so. I mean, I think that they're going to go into emergency mode. But the Supreme Court takes its own time. We don't have a calendar for the Supreme Court.
So you got a big interview today.
Yeah, so I'll go down to Miami at this America Business Forum down in Miami. It'll be a big event. And then he's going to deliver a speech, and then I'll have an interview afterwards.
President after that. All right.
Excellent.
And by the way,
watching.
Yeah, we're going to watch your coverage all day, and also congratulations. Your book's #2 in the country.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you,
Teddy
sir.
Roosevelt, baby.
You know, it's thanks to your radio show.
That's what I think. I just wear them out every day. You're right, Fred.
No,
Thanks so much for
everyone
coming
loves
in.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, Ohio gubernatorial candidate Vivek Ramaswamy urging his fellow Republicans to learn from last night's losses and reprioritize. Watch.
We got handed to us in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Democrats swept all three. There's two key lessons for Republicans. Listen carefully. Number one, our side needs to focus on affordability. Make the American dream affordable. Bring down costs, electric costs, grocery costs, healthcare costs, and housing costs, and lay out how we're going to do it.
This as a new poll finds about 70% of Americans say groceries are more expensive now than they were a year ago. And about 60% of them are blaming President Trump. According to our Fox News voter polling, the economy and cost of living were the biggest issues for voters in New York City's mayoral race and New Jersey and Virginia's governor's races. And in all of those races, the Democrat or Democratic Socialist won. This morning, Trump pointed to the shutdown as a possible strike against Republican candidates. Watch.
Last night, it was, not expected to be a victory. It was very Democrat areas, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. Also about the shutdown and how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. And that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that.
All right, Brian Kilmeade, what's your analysis?
Wow, a lot. I mean, we represent the morning shows today, so we've been doing this for a while. A couple of things. Republicans did not have a good day. So anyone who says, well, not really that bad, no, it was bad. Jack Ciattarelli, I thought, was a really strong candidate. I thought his message was clear and crisp. I was surprised he lost at all, let alone by double digits. But you live in New Jersey, I live in Long Island, where there's a sliver of Nassau County, as you know, did very well. And Bruce Blakeman is the Nassau County executive, might even run for governor, at least Stefanik too. And I think the governor's race next year becomes really intriguing in New York. And I think a lot of people left Manhattan, left you, Rosanna, and they went out to Long Island to get away. A lot of people went down to Florida. And I thought it was interesting stat last night that Ron DeSantis said, when I took office, there were 300,000 more Democrats than Republicans. Now we have 1 million more Republicans. So America is voting with their feet. And I think in a way it's a little scary because we're really separating as a country, not in a straight line like the Civil War, but we're in boxes. Okay, I'm out of this state. I don't agree. That's a little scary. The other thing is what they tried to do is nationalize in New Jersey, and they tried to nationalize in Virginia, and they were effective. They ran against Trump. Trump wouldn't have won and has not won in either one of those states. And the candidates were unable to overcome it. In the case of Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, great biography, not a strong candidate. So I don't think she was going to win. The biggest shocker, the second biggest shocker to me is the Attorney General's story. And for Jay Jones to win, I'm stunned by that. I'm stunned that the people of Virginia don't have higher standards.
All right, Rosanna, I want to go to you now, respond to everything, but also